I just hate being the younger brother. Because all my brothers that are older than me, they always give me the job of the shepherd. Every day you go, David, go tend the sheep. So I'm tending the sheep one day and I kill a lion with my bare hands. The next day a bear comes and I kill that bear with my bare hands. And I know I'm meant for something special. I know I'm meant for something bigger than who I am. God has placed this appointed thing for me on my heart, and I know I'm chasing after his heart. I'm a man just chasing after God's own heart. And one day Samuel comes and he says, Jesse, give me your son so I can anoint them. And so Jesse gives a list of them and he forgets me. And Samuel goes, no, there's one more that you're not telling me about. So my dad ushers me in, and Samuel looks at me and says, you have been anointed by God to be the next king. And I know I'm just a young boy, but my time is coming. My time is fast approaching. A couple years later, the Philistines came in and they're attacking us. My brothers go all off to war, and they're terrified of the Philistines. I'm terrified of the Philistines. We're all terrified of the Philistines, but I have to go and give my brothers some food one day. And as I go up there, everyone is in their tents, trembling in their knees because this Philistine Goliath was just too big, too strong for them. And I go, I'll take him down. A couple of arguments later, and I'm looking into the river to pick up 5 stones, soft stones, to put in my hands and put in my slingshot to kill Goliath. So I pick up a stone, it's in my hand, and I'm ready to take on Goliath. And he looks at me and just starts laughing and says, you will never defeat me. And I said, I have the Lord on my side. So I put that stone in my slingshot, and I'm swinging it around as fast as I possibly can, and I throw it. And it hits Goliath right in the middle of the forehead. And he falls to the ground. God was on my side, and I was able to defeat Goliath. And Saul, he was getting jealous of me. He killed his 10,000, I killed my hundreds of thousands. And sooner or later, I became king. I was this man chasing after God's own heart because that's what God wanted me to do. But my lust got the better of me. My lust got in the way of God's plan. One day I was sitting on the roof doing something a king would never do, stay behind as my armies go to war. And as I stayed behind, I was sitting on my roof and I look out and this beautiful woman was bathing in a bathtub. And I tell my servants to usher over here, and I find out that her name is Bathsheba, and I get her and I'm in love with her. But I'm married and she's married. And I sleep with her. I sleep with her, and I made the biggest mistake of my life because then I had to deal with her becoming pregnant. I had to deal with Uriah, her husband, coming home from war and trying to figure out a way to make him the culprit of her pregnancy. And when that didn't turn out the way I wanted to do, I had him killed. I had him put in the front lines to have him murdered. My biggest flaw of my life was killing Uriah, was sleeping with Bathsheba, was getting her pregnant and having that son die because that was God's plan. I was no longer a man chasing after God's own heart. I was a man chasing after my own desires. But I had to live with that decision. I had to live with the decisions that I made. My life from then on was pretty messed up. The one good thing that came out of it was my son Solomon. And out of Solomon, the temple was built in God's name. And I know I've messed up. I know that the decisions I made were not God's design. I know that the decisions I made were not part of God's plan, and yet I try to steer my position of power into the position that I wanted myself to be in. And God didn't want it that way. I was supposed to be a man chasing after God's own heart. I believe that I still am a man chasing after God's own heart, but I get in the way of myself sometimes. I get in the way of God's plan most times. You know, I think a lot of us do that same thing too. I know I'm this big King David, one of the major figures of the Bible, but I screwed up big time. I messed up. And I pray and I hope that you guys never mess up as big as I messed up that day. I regret that day. If I could go back, I would never have been on that roof. I would never have looked twice at Bathsheba. I would never have slept with Bathsheba. I would never have murdered Uriah. But I did all those things. I did all those things. I messed up. And I hope you are a person chasing after God's own